Alrighty, good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. It's Kate Richburg. Sorry, I was a little tardy on getting up and running today. I was having a little trouble connecting our stream here on Facebook, so sorry about that. But I think if you guys can just give me a quick shout out and let me know that you can hear me, that will be awesome, and I can make sure that the Facebook feed is up and running. So bear with me here for just a moment. There we go. I can see Michelle, you have commented, which is awesome. So I know that Facebook is up and running. So give me just 2 shakes. I'm going to pull up all of these feeds, and then you will see me, and we'll get this show on the road. There we go. Okay, perfect. Alrighty. I think I am just about ready to jump in. And there we are. Hey everybody. Today on this Friday for Free Tip Friday, we made it, and I see our Brittany is over on YouTube. Hello Brittany, we can't wait to have you jump in with your next project. We have something fun coming up from Brittany very, very soon, so it's going to be awesome. All right, well, it's great to have all of you all here today on this Friday. We're live on Friday, October 2nd, and we're going to finish up this Ruth Bader Ginsburg tribute caller that I started with you guys on last Saturday's broadcast. And so we're going to finish this up. I'm going to show you some finishing techniques and stuff. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we have here from Gita, right? And we have, I'm going to move things around. I kind of forgot I was going to start with it here. But as you know, let me get it into position, and I will just jump on in right there. As you know, every month, and if you don't, if you're new to watching us here at Bead Shop, welcome. It's great to have you all here on this Friday. But we do have what we call a monthly mix every month. Okay, and this October 2020 was designed by our wonderful moderator from across the sea in Denmark, our wonderful Gita, and she and Janice got their heads together and they did the monthly mix. Gita was the driving force behind it, the monthly mix here for October, and it's called, let me get these out of the way because it's darkening the screen. It's called Samson, and it's a tribute to her beloved kitty cat who is no longer with us, but she created this great mix called Samson. And I wanted to share a few things about this mix before we get into our project for today. I really love it, and you'll see it over in beadshop.com on the monthly mixes. It's selling out super quickly. We are going to replenish it, so if we're out of it, put yourself on the notification list, all right, and stuff for it, and you'll see it. Number one, if you go to our blog or if you go over to the monthly mix page, you'll see that the cause that we're supporting, this is a cause that's near and dear to Gita's heart. We're donating $1 of each tube that we sell to the foundation that Gita chose, that takes care of all of the summer cats, I guess they're called, and I'm sure Gita, you can, and if you read the blog, Janice wrote all about it, right? But it's a cat rescue group there in Denmark, one that is near and dear to Gita's heart, and we're donating it in Samson's memory, right? And so if you go to the blog or if you go to the product page, you'll see it. You'll also see that there are 2 brand new beads in here, and I don't know how well they read sometimes in the mix, but they're cut, 8/0 that are cut, okay? And you'll see 2 different colorways. We also launched them as separate beads, but I'm pulling them out of the mix here. It's that patina iris, and I think it's the steel gray, but it's a cut bead. So it's all 8/0, but 2 of them are that delicious shape. I used it way back in a mix. We have another cut bead that I used, I think in the September mix, not last year, but maybe the year before, right? And so those are those guys here, okay? And so, so those are all, that's also mixing in the mix. And so it's a great cause, and you can read all about it on our blog or in the mix. But you can see when you get your mix, you'll have a cute little picture of Gita, and her Samson is on there, right? And so it's really a cool thing. And you know what I did, and I just realized this, Gita, as I turned it, I put a P in your Samson's name. And it's actually, when I do the next group, I'm so sorry. I just realized that I am not always the best speller, and I didn't check it. So just, that'll be my special pet name for your boy. And I'll get the next one right. I'm so sorry. That is my fault. But it's really a beautiful one. It's really a beautiful one. And if you look at, so many of us have these special pets that we just adore so much, right? So we're really very glad to be doing this for Gita in memory of her Samson. And those of you who are on the bead table, who are on our social, and I'll show you here, you can always follow us. I'll do this at the beginning and then at the end as well. You can always follow us and get all of kind of this inside info, right? And you can follow us on our Insta at beadshop.com. You can join us on our group at the Bead Table over on Facebook. And of course, you can subscribe, hit that subscription button right underneath the screen. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you never miss anything from us. On the Bead Table group that everyone was chatting about when the mix came out, right? And were really excited to see it. And Gita kind of posted the story, and everybody was posting about, their pets that they lost. So I know that you guys know, so I'm going to throw my you guys know Alfred, right? Our Alfie, and Alfie's been on the show and done all of this stuff. But before Alfred T. Pickles, there was Rumpel Rue Richburg. And so I just wanted to give a shout out. This was my Rue. Rue left us also in about, I think it was 2012 or so. My Rue lived to be 21. And so he was my boon companion and my soulmate. Made so many moves and everything with me. So here is Rumpel Rue Richburg. He had one blue eye and one amber eye. And old friends who are watching will remember the Rue was he was a force of nature, that Rue. So anyway, I loved everybody's stories that they shared about their pets and everything. But Rumpel Rue Richburg was, he was an epic cat man, as we like to say. So anyway, so Gita, thank you so much for your wonderful story, your great expertise in putting this color together. It has that the orange color in it. I'm blanking on the number and the name, but it's it's kind of reminiscent of those poppies and stuff, and I just love it so much. It's just a great mix. And if you go over to beadshop.com, you'll see the list of everything that's in there as well. So you can certainly buy these individually, but it's really great to have them in the mix as well. So put the persimmon, thank you JP, it's the persimmon is the orangey color in here that I love it. And so that persimmon color is for poppies, and poppies, as we know, are for remembrance. So it all works together so beautifully. So yes, so there we go. So I wanted to give you a little up close and personal about this. And again, if we run out, put yourself on the notification list, because we will be getting this back in. Yeah, it's the Duracoat Silverline Persimmon. Sorry, I can't keep everything in my head, but that's why I appreciate you guys helping me out. So over here on this side, before we get to this piece, I wanted to show you, we have a new chart from Emily. It's in the charts, on the charts page from on beadshop.com. You can find it right there. And the chart here is a netting chart, and you can kind of, you know, map out what you want to do with your netting, and you can put in your colors and stuff like that. So a real big thank you to Emily for putting this chart together. Now, since we were last together on this piece, making this piece, I think I'm going to leave this in the board actually. I've made a little bit of progress, not a whole lot. It's been some busy times here at Bead Shop. We've been just creating and making and doing all kinds of stuff. But I wanted to come on and show you some closures for this. And we're going to do a couple of closures today. Okay, and people were also asking about how to add thread and stuff like that. So I want to show you a couple of closures. Okay, I'm going to put this sample aside for the moment, because we're going to look at that in a second. That's going to be a little more of an old school closure. Now I'm going to show you how to do this with a button, and then kind of also a kind of a handmade closure as well that we'll put on that other one. So here's my collar, such as it is, as far as I've gotten with it. But I do work on it at night, and I know that many of you have been working on yours as well. And it's super meditative, I think, and it's really, I don't know, very calming and soothing to stitch on. I really love it. And so I wanted to put a button on the end of this one, okay? And I thought, I also wanted to show you how to add some chain, like if you didn't want to use or have this collar go all the way around, or if you maybe wanted the button in the front, or however you wanted to do that, okay? And the cool thing about it is that Justice Ginsburg wore a lot of different colors, right? And she just loved kind of the variations on a theme, right? So however you choose to make your own variation, I think is totally valid and awesome, right? So we're gonna, I'm gonna show you my variation. Now I want to give, I've been thinking about this all week, and this is something that I made, and I want to show you. I want to give it a shout out to a sister company of ours who we also love, and you know, they're buddies of ours. But I'm going to put this aside here for just a second. The chain that I used, or that I am using, is called Fancy Pants, and I love this Fancy Pants chain. It has everything that you need to close this off with chain, but you can use any chain that you like in any finish that you like, right? But this is what I'm going to be using, and I'm going to be using this improv button because I like the square shape of it. Now, what I made this on my bench last week when it's kind of hard to see because it's a little reflective. I guess I shouldn't have polished it quite so much. But what I made here is a little tag, and you can see it has the initials RBG. It has her year of birth and year of death. And then it has this cool little stamp underneath. That stamp is from our buddies over at beaducation.com, run by our friend Lisa Kelly. And I used to be director of education over there at Beaducation. And Lisa does all things stamping. So if you're interested in doing any of that stamping and stuff, that's the place to go. But as I was looking through my stamps, I saw this one, and it really has an RBG collar kind of feel to it. Okay, and then I cut it out with my disc cutter, but you can get like a metal blank and stuff. Beaducation carries all that stuff. So if you do want to do something like this, that's the place to do it. But what I also grabbed was I liked this shape, and so that's why I'm also using this Fancy Pants chain. And this Fancy Pants also kind of has this oval feeling to it, and it feels, I don't know, it feels vintage. You know, it has a lot of good, useful component parts in this that we're going to use. Okay, so I'm going to start by just stitching one of these component parts here onto the side of this collar. Okay, so I'm going to take this chain apart with my pliers here, and I don't know how much of it I'm going to use, and I think I'm going to start stitching into actually this oval jump ring. You can stitch into a jump ring. You can stitch into like a soldered ring if you only want to do, you know, a soldered ring or whatever. You could also use our Jardin ring and stitch into that. But I'm going to close this up with my pliers here, and I'm going to make sure that it's super nice and closed. Okay, like so. Okay, and that's going to go here. So the same way you would stitch into this loop, you do the same thing if you were just stitching a button on the end as well. Okay, but we want to do this button side first. So I've left, when I started this piece, and sorry, let me get a little wider here. Again, do remember, you guys, I'm the talent and the director and the video support person, so I really appreciate your patience when I'm not always in frame and stuff like that. So thank you for your understanding on that. I try real hard. But when you started this netting on this side here, right, we left a bunch, I don't know, how much did I leave? You're asking exactly. I will tell you. Let me measure this out. Okay. I will say I left about 16 inches, okay, on that end. And that will give me enough room to do whatever it is that I decide to do. This is super shiny. I'm going to move it kind of down here because it's a little distracting for me for the moment. I should have matted it down is what I should have done. So what I'm going to do is on this end, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to thread it here, right? Yeah, my mom is commenting I'm making good use of that theater degree. It's true. I did stage management for quite some time in the theater in the Bay Area. Nothing like the power of a good stage manager, I'll tell you that right now. As well as a lot of other things in the theater as well. So I'm going to put, so see how we've got it here, and let me get my awl so you can see where the thread is coming out of. Can you see how the thread, when we started this, we started by putting one of those, the galvanized pewter on, and then we went down and, you know, came back up with the picot, and then came up here. So our thread is coming out. It's coming from an up, kind of an up and out kind of thing. So I'm going to build that loop, and when I build the loop, I'm going to go around. I'm going to come back in and go through that up bead again, and I'm going to reinforce this loop a couple of times. Okay, you could, if you wanted that loop to be a little more open, let's say that you were doing a button closure or whatever, and I'm going to do that on the other side, I might actually make that loop come up and around and catch this bead down here. Okay, but you'll see as you make it, right, you'll kind of make those decisions. So this loop needs to be kind of small, and I think I'm going to do it in white. So let me put on 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, and 6. Is that 6? And I'm doing the Emily thing of looking at all of these, right, and seeing if they look right. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to slide that jump ring on, and I'm going to go back and through that up bead at the end. Okay, can you see that there? Let me get a little tighter. Sometimes I get too tight though, and I know it's hard for you guys to see. So, and then I'm just going to slide this all through, and I'm going to look and see how that sits. And I think I like it, right? So I'm going to go through that thread path again. I haven't tightened it completely because I have to get my needle back through those 6 beads without skipping any beads, and I wouldn't split the thread because this is Fireline I'm using, if you'll remember. I'm going to go through that again, that jump ring, and then back through here. If you're using a different chain, you might want to choose a different jump ring, obviously, right? You can choose just a jump ring from the jump ring collection that we have. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go through, I want to fill these with thread. This is going to get a lot of handling, right? It's going to be a stress point in the necklace. So why not go with 3? Now I'm going to start to tighten. Now, people have had, this is also an issue that I've noticed in the, and I'm actually going to turn this upside down so I can bead it with my right hand here. So bear with me. People have mentioned, or I've also noticed, that sometimes the top row of this necklace, of the netting, can look a little loose. So as you're going through, this is a place where you want to be really aware of the tension of the piece, okay? And the reason it feels a little loose is because, again, you have that up bead, and then you're going through 3, and then going through that up bead again. So what you can do, if you wanted to reinforce it and make it a little, you know, sturdier, is we can continue with, here's my thread, I can just continue to go through, and when I weave this thread back through, I can come in, and I'm not going to go through that down bead, I'm just going to go through like all of these little 3s here, right, these section of 3s. It'll help cinch, and as I tighten this, it'll also help cinch everything up, okay, if you want to do that. So I'm just going to go through a few until I run out of thread. Then I'm going to show you how to weave this thread off. You certainly don't have to do this, right? But I think it adds a little extra. You could also add, like if you wanted, if you didn't want to close this up like that, you could add an extra bead here as you're going through, right? Can you see that, how that extra bead kind of goes into place? Oh, you can see I missed one there, so I'm going to take this out. You could also, while I have this out, you could also put a picot there. Let me thread this needle again and I'll show you. You could add a picot. Let me go through that one that I missed. You could add a picot every so often. So if I wanted to add a picot, let me do it with my 3 beads. I'd go 1, 2, 3. And then I'd go through these other 3. Let's see what that picot looks like. Right, so it kind of gives you like a little raised, it's not a real true picot. A true picot might be something like this. And again, can you tell? I'm just kind of making this up, really, because these are all kind of, you know, seed bead stitches, right, that we know, right, and we can kind of improvise with it. So let me do that 4 picot. Let me add 4 of these like we did at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now here's, and you could add anything that fits in there, right? You could add a rondelle, might fit in there. You could add a size 8, right? So if I do that, and see how I have that single, I put on 4, I skip 3, come back through the 4th one, and tighten, twist it so it sits right, and see there's our little picot right at the top. Let me get that tension. So you could do something like that as well if you wanted. It might flop around a little bit, but I don't know, you could play with that. I'm going to take that off. I'm just going to cinch mine up just a little, I guess, but maybe I want to add, I don't know, as I'm pulling it tight, I feel like I'm losing a little bit of that, so maybe I will just come in. I'm going to go back and take this thread out. Yeah, you could do, Kim's saying you could do a right angle weave with just a single bead. You sure could, right? I could add a white bead in here so it breaks the line up a little bit. But let me add that single. Let me see what that looks like. Let me go through a few. And again, you don't have to do this at all, right? This is plenty. It's sturdy without this last kind of thing. But if you want an edge that is a little more stable, I think this is a good way to do it. Yeah, and see how when I'm adding that bead, see how that opening sits, I think, much more nicely. Okay. And then as you go across, you can see I've left plenty of thread when I began, because again, when I improvise like this, I can never quite know what I'm going to do. But it'll be easy for you to weave in more thread. I'm going to do this until I run out of thread, and I'll show you how to weave this out and weave in a new piece. Okay, so just stick with me here. And if you've already closed yours off, right, if you've made one and closed it off, you can come back in, weave in a new piece of thread, and add this closing technique if you want, right? There's no reason why you couldn't. That's the cool thing about seed bead work, is it always feels like you can come in and add a bit more. Okay, so we're getting there. I have a little bit of left, and as I'm going around, I'm going to do a few more, but I want plenty of thread to be able to weave off. Okay. Yeah, I also like, Wendy is saying, is noticing how she really likes how the single bead cleans up that edge. I agree. I feel like it really stabilizes everything. But you could, again, it does not have to be the same bead. There's a pretty big space right there you can see. So you could jump in with an 8/0 too if you wanted. I don't see why you couldn't. Or something else altogether, maybe even a true two to add a little bit of sparkle, but you just need to check it and see what works. That's how we individualize these things. Let me get a couple more here and then I'll weave this in. So the idea, the way that Emily has taught us in Seed Bead School to weave thread in and out is she tells us to weave our thread in first and then weave our thread out second. Okay? Because we want to eventually, when my thread is woven out, right, I want it to emerge in the same place. Okay? So I'm going to grab my new thread Here's my new, let me widen this a little bit. I'm gonna take some new thread, and I'm gonna guesstimate how much more I'd need. I don't know, maybe that much more. And then I'm gonna attach another needle. And when we're weaving thread in, the idea is that we want to turn some corners, right? So it kind of locks the thread in place. So I'm going to go back here, okay, and I don't know, go in maybe about right here. And I'm just going to put my needle through. Let me get even tighter. Lorraine is asking, can we add the extra bead at the very start of the project? I don't know. I mean, you could, Lorraine. Maybe you'd have to do some fancy stitching here, like so it would be like netting and right angle weave all together. I think it might be easier to do the netting as is, and then come in and do your closure, because I just thought of this because, you know, I did that closure with the loop, so it'll really make my loop sit nicely and stuff. But you can certainly try it, right? I'm not as seed bead savvy to think that out in my head for the moment. But yeah, this is, and the thread color, just an FYI, this is the Fireline, the 4-pound crystal Fireline. Okay, so I'm going to come in, and I've gone through here with my needle, and I'm going to stop before I pull everything through. Okay, and so I need a little bit of a tail here, not much. Okay, now I'm just going to follow my path. I'm going to go up through this diamond, like so, and I'm pulling tight, but I'm not pulling so tight that I'm pulling the tail all the way through. I'm going to pull here, I'm going to go here and come out. Can you see that? And then I'm going to come out here, come down here, past where my thread began, and you'll feel things start to tension and get tighter. And so once I've made a few passes, I pull on this thread. Can you see how when I pull here, it's still pulling this Fireline through? So we want to just keep going. So I'm going to go, now I'm going to make my way to where I want my thread to exit. Still kind of turning the corners, following the netting. And the thing about Fireline is it's kind of slick, right? So as you pull, see, there we go. Now as I'm pulling, see how the end isn't pulling, right? It's locked in. So if my thread is locked in, that means I'm going to make a beeline for where I want my thread to come out. And so I'm going to go here. I'm going to zigzag it across the top. If I can get my needle in there, come on. There we go. Now stitch it up and through. Can I grab all of them without missing a bead? I think so. There we go. Okay, so this one is done. Now the thread that I need to weave out, I just do the same thing. I weave it out. That's why I need some length here. So I'm just going to go through, make a meandering path with this thread. Turn a corner here so the thread starts to lock itself into place. Again, we want these stitches to be firm, but not so tight that you're, you know, smushing, that's a technical term, up your beads, right? We want the tension to be nice and equal, so that you don't have like this weird tight space where you have woven your thread in and out. Okay, so now I'm going to come in and I'll under tension clip that thread away, so that one's gone. I'm going to clip that one away, that was my new thread, and then you can see I've got this top thread ready to continue on. All right, so now for this end, and obviously this isn't quite finished yet, right? So I'm gonna measure this out and stuff, right, later. So now I'm gonna take this little tribute plaque that I made, and I'm gonna open up this ring, and I'm gonna see, maybe I want it to kind of go up like this. I don't know. Or maybe I want to remove the oval, the round. That's what I think I want to do. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to use that same jump ring. Make sure that I put it, nope, face up. I was right the first time. So I'm going to attach that. Nope. It's upside down. My spatial relationship techniques aren't always right on. So there's that. There we go. Make sure it's facing the right way. There we go. And again, you can use chain or, you know, add whatever it is you like right there. But I stamped that out at my bench. But again, you can find all of these cool stamping supplies over with our buddy Lisa over at Beaducation, including this little collar-like stamp that I used. I just wanted to title it, right? I wanted to have some kind of something on there, so it just felt good to do that. And so now I'm going to attach, there's my button. So I'm going to get one more of these oval jump rings from my Fancy Pants chain, and attach the button. Okay. There we go. Just like that. Now this is adding a lot of length as I look at it, right? And I think maybe what I'll do is I might omit this small link here, maybe. It feels a little skinny to me. But that's okay, because all I need to do is open that, very carefully keeping my oval link in there, my jump ring. and attaching this. But the fancy pants chain also, you know, just like a single little one of these long tags will look great, or however it is you want to do it, right? You could also look amongst your vintage jewelry. I know that some of you probably have a pile of vintage random stuff, right? You might find an interesting connector or something in there, okay, that you might want to add just as a little, because these collars feel so vintage, right? So use your imagination. But this fancy pants chain, I think, is great. And you can, yeah, I think that looks a lot better. What you can do is, if you only wanted like some of this netting, like maybe you just wanted to have this kind of in the middle, right? Like this. And then you could do some wire wrapping here. You could create that loop right here. And you could wire wrap some beads that go up to the top, or wire, you know, or add beads and chain, you know, wire wrap some beads, you know, in between this fancy pants chain. Take this link out and add a wire wrap bead, or whatever. I don't know. Whatever moves you to design this. Okay, so that's how. And so then on this side, I would make, and I will do when I'm done, I'm going to make another loop like this that goes around the button, but instead of, I'll show you here, let me finish this one off and you can see what I mean. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, and one of these, and 1, 2, and 3, and then I go up through here. So remember how I did that loop on this side and I went through just that one bead? I might at this point put on however many beads need to go over this bead. Let's put on, let's see, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 12. I don't know. Might have to be more than that, but I would check it. Yeah, it'll have to be much more than that. But see how this is coming around? And I will, so that that loop stays open, I'll come through all of those beads. So see how the loop is bigger on that side. Does that make sense? I think it does. Okay. So let me show you now. There's another way you can do this. And I don't have a lot of time to show you this, but you will remember this from when Emily did the beaded berry. Okay. And this involves getting an 8/0 bead. Okay. And so I pulled the 8/0 the same 8/0, this galvanized pewter, the 4221. I grabbed it in an 8. But you can also, this is a way to introduce a little bit of color, right? The iconic photo now of Justice Ginsburg wearing this white collar. She has a pair of really like kind of jade emerald, you know, looking earrings on. You could attach, you know, add some color to that, right, for this. But I'll show you. We did the broadcast on the beaded berry chain. It was from 6/7/2017, okay? And Emily did a whole chain of the beaded berry, and it was super cool. And it's a great way to finish this off, okay? So I'm just gonna add a few little beads. Maybe I'll add them in white so you know that they're different, okay? So I'm gonna add just a little bit of an extender here on the end. Okay, like this. And now I'm going to start this beaded berry. Okay, and the beaded berry is going to act as our button. So I'm going to start, just like Emily did, the core of a beaded berry is 3 8/0 beads. Okay, we slide those down. Now, each the beaded berry has 6 ribs to it, okay? And those ribs are 2 11/0, 1 8/0, and 2 11/0, okay? And basically you just go back through those original 8s that you just put on, and you slide them down. Now this beaded berry, it's going to make kind of a smallish, well, not super small, but you can make it also a little bit bigger if you wanted a more substantial button on the end. But let me go ahead and just do these 6 ribs really quick, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, so remember, 2 11/0, 1 8/0, 2 11/0, and back up through. You can download that episode, does have episode notes to it. You want to keep this tension here, and that's why you can see why I added those 3 little beads, so this berry wouldn't be right up against this. Okay, so that's 2. Let's do 4 more. 2 11/0, 1 8/0, 2 11/0, and back up through that 8/0. So we're halfway home. Okay. Let's add our next one. 2, 1, and 2. And essentially you're just filling in all the way around that core of your 3 8/0. If you want your berry to be a little bit bigger, just make this a little bit longer. Maybe use 4 8/0 in the middle, and then maybe like 3 11s, 1 8, 3 11s. I don't know. You'll play with it a little bit. So 2 4 5. I'm going to add 1 more, and then we're going to look at it and see if it needs 1 more to help fill it in. And this has a super vintage feel to it, right? This beaded berry is so traditional. I feel like I want 1 more in there. That 6 is a little sparse, so I'm going to go for 7. So that these ribs don't move around. There we go. Right? Look at how nice that looks. Okay. So now we need to finish it off, and the way that Emily finishes it off is she finished it off with a little picot. So I'm going to put an 8/0. See how the top of this, I don't know, maybe I just want the picot. I'm kind of looking at it. Let me just try the picot and see what it looks like. So I'm gonna do it in this silver color though. I'm gonna put the 4 on, and then I'm gonna go back down, right, skipping the 3, going back down the 4, and then going back down those 3 8/0 in the middle. Yeah, that looks just fine. I didn't need that 8. So there it is. Right, there's that picot. Now I'm going to go through those 3. That's just 2. I need to go back through all of those 3. Now what I can do, if I've done this, I can make those little additions kind of meet in the middle, right? So I can just keep, like we did from the other side. Let me get that thread out of the way. Stitch along the top. There we go. And then you'll have that top stitching meet somewhere in the middle of your necklace. And see how that kind of, you can't because it's not in frame. See how it just kind of makes that all happen, right? And I love the way that beaded berry looks. So let me just finish stitching this through, and then I'll bring all of these closures. Actually, I don't want it to go out, so I'm going to just hold it there. So let me widen this up so you can see all of the endings. Let me clean up these beads so I don't have a mess. And then we'll take a look at what we've got. Here it is, my tube. There we go. Okay, so you can see, and this one was a little shorter, right? Because I just made this little sampler, but you can see that one there. And then let's bring in our other friend over here. How we added the little tag. And the button. And then on this side we'll do this loop, and we would do that same loop for this beaded berry as well. Okay, but you just need to measure and figure out how big you need that loop to be, and that's it. So I hope that answers all of the questions about weaving thread in and out, adding thread, and finishing this off. I think it's a fun thing. And yeah, you could, this would be cool. You can put make small sections of these, add the beaded berry, make another section. That would be cool too, right? So use your imagination in this, because you are the designer here, right? And tributes, what I love about tributes are that they have they're a tribute. They're your interpretation of your remembrance, right? So do remember, you guys, here for beadshop.com, I want to say thank you so much for watching. You can find all of the information on the project and products from today's broadcast on our website right at beadshop.com. Drea is also going to link it in the newsletter. There are some great samples of everyone's tributes collars that we're posting on Instagram, as well as in the bead table. So you can follow us on social at our on our Insta at beadshop.com. Join us in our Facebook group, the bead table on Facebook, and of course, you guys, right underneath this screen, if you're watching on YouTube, there is a subscribe button. So hit that thumbs up there, and of course also subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a broadcast. So that's my story there, and I'm sticking to it. I wanted to mention that next week on the live broadcast, you guys, we had some requests in our Facebook group on the bead table, and people were asking about closures for peyote stitch bracelets, as well as kind of brick stitch bracelets, stuff like that. All the different closures, how you would do that. So next Wednesday's show is gonna be all about those closures for peyote stitch, brick stitch, all of that. We're going to look at some of the findings and stuff that we carry here at Bead Shop, and I'm going to go through it all. So that's going to be the broadcast that you don't want to miss. It's going to be all about closures, bringing closure to it all. I am also, if you notice, I am wearing these really fun Sacred Heart kind of earrings. I wanted to let you guys know that I ventured out yesterday for the first time and did kind of a little something just for me. I went to the DeYoung museums. The museums are slowly opening back in San Francisco, and I saw the Frida Kahlo exhibit. I felt nervous, but also brave all at the same time. Of course, I was socially distanced. I had my hand sanitizer at the ready, and I wore my mask from start to finish. So I wanted to remind everyone, please continue, and I washed my hands, I think, 4 times while I was there in the museum. So I want you to remember, wear those masks, kids. Keep up that social distancing and really be aware of your surroundings. We're not out of the woods yet with this, but we can start to, I think, move around really safely, but be very, very careful. This doesn't mean that I'm running out and going everywhere all the time, but it really fed my soul to be back in a museum, in a place with art. So if you're going out, remember, mask up, wash those hands, social distance, 6 feet between you and that other museum lurker, and take care, stay safe, and I will see you on Wednesday, where we bring some closure to Peyote Stitch and its friends. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a fantastic and creative weekend. We would not be here, our small business would not be surviving these hard times without you. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.